Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Srinivasa Biology Tutorial. For this section to discuss NCERT class 12, the sexual reproduction in flowering plants, part 4, that is pollination. Pollination. The presenting the section, you will have to learn that the male and female gametes, the flowering plants are produced as any pollen grains and embryo sac. So the previous classes we discussed the male gamete is produced as an pollen grains, female gamete produced as an embryo sac respectively. Both the types of gametes is non-motile and have to be the brought together to fertilization to occur. This is achieved. So that both are completely they get fused to get making as an objective. Next, here the pollination. It is the pollination is the mechanism which achieve to objective the transfer of the pollen grains from stigma to their transfer of the pollen grains from anther to stigma to pistil. It is called as in a pollination. The flowering plants evolved as the amazing area that adaptations to achieve the pollination they make as use external agents achieve the pollination. You can list the possible external agents. So when you observe to as any the transfer of the pollen grains from anther to stigma. So here the pollen grains to get transferred as an anther to in the stigma region. Anther to in that stigma region. So this is called as a pollination. Here there's completely some achieves as present. Those are called. Okay, what is the kinds of pollination? Let us to discuss what is the kinds of pollination. See, that depending upon the source of the pollination, here depending upon the source of the pollen and the pollination can be divided as in three types. One is in autogamy, second one is a chitinogamy, third one is a xenogamy. First, let us discuss as an autogamy. This type of the pollination achieved within the same flower. The transfer of the pollen grains from anther to stigma of the same flower. For example, when you take here one particular flower, when you take as here any one particular flower, in this flower to get produced as what? It is to get produced as here the pollen grains as well as that male and female sex organs. So this answer to get reached here only. Here pollination will be to get takes place. Here pollination to get takes place. That is called as in what? In a autogamy process. In normally the flowers which open exposed to the anther and the stigma. So here the both they are exposed to as in a anther and stigma. And it is complete the autogamy is a rather rare. Autogamy such as flowers require as in a synchronizing flower to release as in a stigma in respectively, and also with the anther and in the stigma should to enclose the each of other to the self pollination to get occurs. So here completely this total flowers to get completely show as in synchronizing. Synchronizing means what? Here synchronizing condition means the male and female to get mature at a time. That is condition is called as what? Completely synchronizing condition. Then only this type of the pollination will be there. Possibility is there. Okay. Next, after in some plants such as in a viola and common fancy, axolis and comelia to produce two types of flowers, that is in a chasmogamous flowers which is in a similar to as in flowers of respect to as an exposed to the anthers on the stigma. So here the total here male and female sex organs to get completely exposed. Here then pollination visibility takes place. So such kind of in a pollination is called as in a chasmogamous flowers is produced. Chasmogamous flowers. And second one is clistogamous flowers, which is does not open, means it is a closed type. It is completely it is a closed type. Inside of then only the male and female sex organs will be there present. Inside only the pollination will get takes place. In such flowers of anther and stigma, it is alike close of each other. When the anthers descends in the flower bud, pollen grains come contact to the stigma of that affect the pollination will be takes place. This thus the clistogamous flowers, the invariably their autogamous is other no chance cross pollination leading to the stigma. So there only one possibility is there, other cross pollination possibility is not there in that clistogamous flowers. Okay, see they given as a name here. These are the name clistogamous flowers. It is in a chasmogamous flowers. Okay, next. The chasmogamous flowers produced as an assurance the seed set of the even the absence of the pollinators. Here they produce as in that set of the absence of the pollinators. Do you think the clistogamous flowers are advantages and disadvantages to that plant? Why? So here that the numerous amount of the pollen grains are not produced as an in this under the Commelinea oxalis, that kind of plants. Okay, this is what it is completely only for that is an autogamy. The second one is what that is in getinogamy. The second one is what there is getinogamy. See, in that getinogamy, in the getinogamy, the transfer of the pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant through the getinogamy is a functionally cross pollination involving the pollinating agents. Genetically, it is similar to as an autogamy since the pollen grains come to the same plant. So, for example, here is a one plant is there. In this plant to get produced as a flower, it is to get produced as the flower, and here to get form as another plant. Here to get produced as another plant. Here this flower of the enter the pollen grain to get reach as their same plant. So here this enter the A plant pollen grains to get reach as B plant of the stigma. A plant of the pollen grains to reach as B plant of the stigma. Here pollination is takes place. This is called as what? It is getinogamy pollination. The third one is what? Xenogamy. Third one is what? That is xenogamy. What is a xenogamy? Transfer of the pollen grains from the anther to the stigma in the different plants. Here it is a one plant. It is a one plant. Here I am taking as another plant also. Like this is a C plant. This is a C plant. So this plant pollen grains. Here transfer of the pollen grains from anther to stigma in different plant species. Here transfer of the pollen grains in different plant species, that is called as an xenogamy. This is only one type of pollination, which is during the pollination they bring the genetically difference to as pollen grains on the stigma. So it is only genetical difference that takes place in this xenogamy. Okay, it is in the three different types of the pollinations. Okay, next, what is the agents of pollinations? What are the agents of pollination? Agents of pollination. The plants as to abiotic, they are nothing but as wind and water. One is in biotic in animal that achieve the pollination. So the pollination agents of pollination takes place as in two types. One is in abiotic pollination, biotic pollination. Abiotic example in wind and water. Biotic is example is animals. The majority of the plants are biotic agents pollination. Most of their majority of the plant is followed by as in biotic pollinators. Next, one of the small properties of the plant abiotic agents, the pollen grains come contact with as in a stigma that changes a factor both wind and water pollination. So here only one small proportion of the pollination will be there possibilities there, that is in a wind and water pollination. To cause their complete state for as in that uncertainties and the associated loss of the pollen grains. So once they get contact with the stigma, their loss of viability. The plants are produces enormous amount of the pollen grains with as compared to the number of ovules availability of the pollination. So the number of pollen grains based on the pollination will be get takes place. Okay, that is next the pollination. The pollination by wind is more common among the abiotic pollinations. So here wind pollination is mostly it is a common. It is called as what? It is in a part of the anemophilous pollination. It is completely in a anemophilous pollination. Anemophilous pollination. The wind pollination is required that as in the pollen grains is a light and non-sticky, so they can be transported in wind currents. So when they're non-sticky and it is the complete light, then only the pollen grains they get easily to get moved from one place to another place and pollination takes place. Next, they often the process well exposed the stamens. Here, when they automatically exposed the number of stamens, what happened and large in fatally the stigma easily trap the air they are born as any pollen grain. So when they completely fall down into as a stigma of the flower, the pollination will be takes place. The wind pollinated flowers often having a single ovule in achieve each ovary of the numerous flowers in packed into as an inflorescence. So the number of the pollen grains they packed here, number of ovules they are packed here, and only one or two only they could reach as in the enter the stigma. The familiar examples is in a corn comb. This is in a their tensils. You see that in a nothing but the in a stigma and style, which which wave their wind to the in a trap the pollen grains. The wind pollination is quite common for the grasses. So mostly in this enter the stigmas to get reach as a pollen grain. The reach as in a stigma of the flower, then only the pollination will be that takes place. The wind is quite common in that only which species in a grasses. In grasses it is in a common. Next, if in case when you observe to as in a water pollination, let us see that in a water pollination. The formation by here, the water pollination is rare in flowering plants, limited about as in 30 genres. Only in 30 genres, this type of the water pollination will be that takes place. The mostly monocotyledon plants. Here against this, the wood, the recall the water, the regular mode of transport of the water male gametes among the lower plants. Like such when we observe as in the lower groups such as algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes. Yes, algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, they compulsory require for as in water from the transfer of the pollen grains. Okay, the believed the particular in some bryophytes and the pteridophytes, especially in bryophytes, pteridophytes, to compulsory require for as in water for the pollination. And that they are here that distribution of the limited because they are need for as in water for the transport of male gametes and fertilization. So when the water is present, what happens that enter the pollen grains to get reach as in one place to another place, then what happens, they completely their fertilization takes place. In some examples of water pollination plants like as in Vallisneria, here hydrilla, which is grow as in fresh water, and several marine sea grasses such as in Justerra. So some species they growing as in the fresh water, in some they growing as in a marine water like as in a they giving examples. Fresh water is Vallisneria hydrilla, in marine water sea water that is in a Justerra. Is not all aquatic plants used as in a water pollination. Here all plants are does not they used as in a water plant water pollination. Only few species they clearly mentioned 30 genera. Right? Like next, in the majority of the aquatic plants, such water here hyacinth and with the nothing but as a part of the water lily, the flowers in a emerged above the level of water, and the pollinated and insects win the most of the land plants also. So most of the some plants they get complete their participated as in a they are through insects and wind. Like when Vallisneria, the female flowers reach surface of the water by the in a long stalk, and the female flowers or pollen grains are released to the in surface of the water. So the enter the female flowers the completely exposed on the water surface, and the enter the pollen grains to get reach as in the surface of the water and contact to as in that in a female gametophyte. Then here they are in a carried the positively by the water current, the pollination will be there takes place. In some other them that eventually each the flowers and the female flowers and the stigma. In another group of the water pollination, the plants their sea grasses and the female flowers remain submerged and water. The pollen grains are released inside of the water. Here the pollen grains in many the such as species a long ribbon like they are carried as in a passively the inside of the in a water, then pollination will be takes place. So some plants like given as in a here clearly sea grasses, the flowers are the female flower they growing as in a submerged. Here the pollen grains also to get reach as the stigma of the flower, pollination will be get takes place. In some of the reach in a stigma and achieve the pollination will be takes place. Most it is most of the water pollination species, the pollen grains are protected from as in a their wetting by as in a mucilaginous covering is present. So they completely covered with as in the mucilaginous sheath is present. That mucilaginous sheath they covered with as in that pollen grain. Okay.